Yes, it's true. If writing isn't a strong skill of yours, then producing great IM content can be quite challenging. Indeed, it requires a lot of time and hard work. How to get started? Let me focus my sharing of tips on three salient elements of module instructional materials: the objectives, the contents, and the assessment. First, let's have the learning objectives. As they say, when designing a module, it is important to start with a clear idea of the course's goals and the outcomes you want to achieve. Well, assuming that you have already a clearly established set of goals and have started sketching out a basic calendar for your course as to how many weeks in the course, how many modules will you include, which topics do you need or want to cover, and as you think about the learning objective for each module, how about considering the SMART criteria according to Anderson and Cratwell? A specific, why specific? That in writing your objective, you should describe precisely what your learner should be able to do. Measurable, that you should shoot for learning that can be observed or measured. Action-oriented, that you should use action verbs to show behavior change or acquisition. Realistic, that you should have reasonable expectations given the condition for instructions. And time-based, that you should specify a time frame for the learning. Here is an example of objectives observing SMART. So let me read it. After completion of this module, that's actually time-based, you should be able to evaluate there is action-oriented, the impact of recent specific economic, social, and political issues on the delivery of holistic healthcare, making it specific, measurable, and realistic. Another example from module entitled Logic, Circuits, and Design, developed by engineer Rick Ray Marquez. So you have there the module intended learning outcomes, and then the objectives are stated. After studying this module in CPE 153, actually that's your time base, students shall be able to, you have there explain, describe, transform, construct, which actually are action-oriented words. And then the principles of logic circuit design, operation of each digital logic gates, expression of function, and the logic diagram of the simplified, the Boolean expression, making these objectives specific, measurable, and realistic. Another example here from Dr. Romaveles IM entitled Earth and Life Science. So as we can see here, the time base there is at the end of the lesson. The action-oriented, we have there describe and differentiate. The historical development of theories that explain the origin of the universe and the various theories of the origin of the universe make the objectives specific, measurable, and realistic. So here's a list of action verbs that we could use based on Bloom's taxonomy, enhanced or updated by Anderson and Cratwell. The action-oriented words are, as you can see, categorized into remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And you have there the list of action words. Define, identify for the remembering, explain, describe under understanding, solve, apply, applying, analyze, compare under analyzing, reframe, criticize under evaluating, design and compose under creating, and so on and so forth. Okay, relative to the contents of instructional module, let me now share with you the 3 tips on how to write effective instructional material. First tip, consider writing your I am from the second person point of view. This means using the words you and your. Why is that? As if you're speaking directly to your students. Yes, in formal academic writing, you may be right. This may not be acceptable. But in writing your instructional material, this technique definitely could foster better learning engagement and a sense of trust. Good example of which is the mobile programming module developed by Ms. Permejo. As you can see, the author freely used the second person point of view in presenting her icon guides. And if you notice, throughout this book, you will see icons there. The icon is there. You will see icons that are intended to call your attention to specific pieces of information, and even the icon notes there. The notes icon encourages you to write down the important topic or statement or link, and the reminders icon reminds you to keep in mind the important topic or statement. And even in her lesson discussion, if you notice, let me read it. Android is a very versatile platform. You can create almost everything from it. You can choose to create offline games. So she always considers the second person point of view, and that is fine and that is acceptable, especially in writing your instructional material. And consistently, even in her learning activities, as you can see for the question under self-assessment, she has there, are you using any Android device, phone or tablet? Now check your Android OS version using the given mention above. And even in her task, write on the top 3 mostly used and unused features of your phone. For example, connectivity, Bluetooth, SMS, and so on and so forth. Now, let's move to tip number 2. For tip number 2, use vivid language and be specific and direct. When we say vivid, it means clear. Well, the goal here is for your IM along with any additional materials to create a complete pictures for students. And definitely this will help your students to better understand the concept. Okay, here is a sample module on tourism, research method and techniques by Ms. Duty. As you can see, here the author avoids using technical terms. The author is giving her students clear distinction between 2 types of research, the pure and applied research. And even in the given definition, the students are even provided with more evocative replacement words such as blue sky thinking as another name for pure research, which is good for the students to better understand the concept presented. On our next sample module on health education by Ms. Barcelona, she provides here her students not just definition of coping styles. To have a clear, complete, or rather complete picture of it, she even includes clear Filipino word counterparts like tiyaga, lakas ng loob, and etc., which actually helps for better understanding of the lesson. Another sample module here on income taxation by Dr. Kaimo. Although lesson on taxation, I claim, is a bit technical, but because of the choices of words used in presenting the lesson, because the choices of words used in presenting the lesson are rather vivid, specific, and direct, the students will definitely better understand the concepts. And tip number 3, consider the appropriate level of your target students. Again, points for reflection. In developing your IM, be sure that you are aware of your students' level of competencies. Be sure to consider their age and learning readiness before formulating the contents of your IM. And be sure that the lesson contents you will develop will fit to your students' understanding and comprehension. In our sample module here by Miss Duty, the lesson on research is clearly intended for aspiring hospitality or tourism manager or for students undergoing research writing. And even in designing a group activity, just like in the module on Letranite code by Ms. Lasso, the targets students and so with their appropriate level here are considered. This module, by the way, is intended for the senior high school student. And although, as we can see, DepEd order is mentioned in the module Pagtuturo ng Panitikan Pilipinas sa Elementarya by Ms. Bagasol, target students here clearly are the college students taking up education. Once again, I provided tips on writing effective instructional material. First, consider writing your instructional materials from the second person point of view. Second, use vivid language and be specific and direct. And third, consider the appropriate level of your target students. By the way, what are assessment activities for? For us teachers, assessment activities are provided to determine successful attainment of course objectives. According to John Biggs, what and how students learn depends to a major extent on how they think they will be assessed. So here are a few examples of assessment tools categorized as diagnostic, formative, and summative. We have to remember that diagnostic assessments assess a learner's current knowledge base or current views on a topic or issue to be studied in a course. Some examples are concept maps, prior knowledge assessment, questionnaires, and concept inventories. The goal of the formative assessment, on the other hand, is to monitor student learning and provide ongoing feedback to teacher and students. Some examples are midterm survey, reflection papers, online discussion boards, exam wrapper, and self-assessment quizzes. While summative assessment evaluates student learning at the end of an instructional unit by comparing it against some standard or benchmark. And the given examples here are final exam, peer assessment, self-assessment, poster presentations, and learning portfolio. And as shown, the DepEd also provided list of summative assessment tools for all the learning areas classified into, we have their written outputs, products, and performance-based tasks. Okay, there you have the summative assessment tools given by, provided rather by the Department of Education. Okay, and not to mention the available digital tools which can be used or applied as assessment for learning. As you can see there in the slide, we have there the Kahoot, Quizlet, Clickers, and even the Google Classroom question tool or the Google Forms, and a lot more. Indeed, assessment is such an essential part of the learning process and student success. And depending on the agreed format, assessment presentation in the module may vary based on schools or programs' peculiarity or uniqueness. And here's to show you a sample of assessment activities from CSIT on mobile programming, authored by Ms. Permejo. So as you can see there, you have there the Students Corner, the learning activities, example of which is the vocabulary builder. And good thing about this learning activity, you have there the answer key in self-assessment. Okay, on using rubrics. Well, truly, rubrics are extremely necessary in every assessment. As we know, rubrics help the teacher to easily explain to the students why they got the grade that they received. According to Sarah Loyola, teachers who use rubrics set clear guidelines and expectations from the outset of the school year, and hold students accountable for the work they produce in a justifiable way. And at the same time, let their students know on which areas they need to concentrate the next time they are given a similar task. So, let me share with you the at least 4 tips for a more meaningful rubric. This is also by SW Loyola. So, not much ado, let's have tip number 1. Be consistent. Example, if you're going to give a writing exercise, your rubric for that skill should vary little from one assignment to the next. Number 2, use clear language. In many instances, using jargon can rub your readers the wrong way. Thus, if you will use jargons on the rubric, your student might not understand them. It is really important that you must keep your expectation and criteria for measuring them clear. Number 3, embrace the positive. Well, in using a rubric, you indicate clearly the criteria you use it. So always try to leave a constructive note somewhere on the document and provide them encouraging feedback whether they do well or end up with a low grade. And tip number 4, leave room for creativity. It means going beyond expectations as one of the rubric's criteria. Meaning, if they want the maximum points, encourage them to push themselves to come up with an imaginative way to go beyond what is asked. That will definitely push them outside of their comfort zone and will encourage creativity. Once again, the provided tips actually came from SW Loyola. Actually, Loyola proposed 5 tips. I just decided to share with you, still hoping that those could somehow help you as you design or adopt rubrics based on your assessment activities and learning outcomes. Although most of us are already familiar on or have already designed rubrics, still, let me show you some rubric samples. So that's a rubric sample for problem solving in mathematics. And another example or sample rather for research report. Okay, these are my sources and references. So thank you very much to all of you. Happy learning, happy module making, enjoy teaching, and until our next writing techniques recorded training, Arriba, may God bless us all.